Summary of the Half-Skinned Steer by Annie Proulx. Mero is proud of the fact that, after leaving his home in Wyoming decades ago, he never went back to see his family. One day, though, he is summoned back to Wyoming by Louise Korn, his brother Rollo's daughter-in-law, who tells him over the phone that Rollo has died. Louise tells Mero that an emu attacked and killed Rollo on the family's ranch, which is now a tourist attraction called Down Under Wyoming. Mero chooses to go back home after being away for 60 years. Mero thinks about important parts of his life as he drives back to the ranch. He talks about how it was impossible to run cows on the ranch because the land was unfriendly. He also talks about how his father, whom he calls the old man, quit being a cattleman to become a mailman. Also, when he thinks back on his father's girlfriend, he uses sexually explicit language to compare her to a horse. Mero remembers how the girlfriend's flirtations with both Rollo and his father charged the family with intensity of purpose and added drama to an otherwise boring life. One of Mero's most important childhood memories is a scary story the girlfriend told about a guy named Tin Head. As Mero keeps traveling, he tells bits and pieces of his girlfriend's story about Tin Head. In the story, Tin Head and his family had a lot of bad luck. His chickens would turn blue for no apparent reason, and his cattle would often be born with strange features. Mero remembers that his girlfriend's story gave him a sexy but scary dream at the time. When he woke up, he understood that his life could go on like this for some time. This understanding, along with Mero's desire for a girlfriend of his own, makes him want to leave home and start a new life. Mero starts to drift away from the present as he thinks about the past. When a police officer pulls him over, for example, he forgets for a moment why he is going home. Mero then talks about his sexual discovery, which was another important time in his life. He remembers when an expert showed him paintings on cliffs and he thought a picture of a woman's private parts was a horseshoe. Mero gets into a multi-car accident after talking about this memory. He then buys a used car and keeps driving home. He drives through Cheyenne for the second time in 60 years, and he remembers that when he first left home, he stopped at a diner to order a raw steak. The bloody meal, on the other hand, turned him into a vegetarian. Mero thinks this is the road of a cattleman gone wrong, and he is proud of his choice to break away from the norms of his family. Mero tells the next part of Tin Head's story, and he keeps the theme of horrible images going. In the story, Tin Head chooses a steer to kill every year so that his family can eat all winter long. One year, though, Tin Head leaves the steer half-skinned and bloody on the ground. He forgets to finish the job because his wife calls him to dinner, and he isn't paying attention. Mero then stops the story to talk about Wyoming's natural scenery. He talks about how the blinding snow and driving wind rise and fall, and how the road in front of him clears up. As he continues to drive, he thinks about the shape of his family's land and the intimate fences he built when he was young. As the rain starts to pick up again, Mero tries to stay on the road and reassures himself that he has not forgotten how to drive a winter mountain. He says that the road is achingly familiar even when it's snowy, and he thinks fondly of the nearby farms. Even though Mero is sure he knows how to get to his family's ranch, he misses the turnoff. Then, one of his car's tires gets stuck in the snow, so he gets out and tries to free it. The story of Tin Head picks up again. Mero's father's girlfriend tells how Tin Head comes out of his house after dinner to look for the half-skinned steer and is surprised to find that it is gone. Tin Head suddenly sees movement in the distance and realizes that the steer is still living. Tin Head sees the anger in the steer's eyes and understands that he and his family will have to suffer because they hurt the steer in a cruel way. The story of Tin Head is over, but Mero is still stuck in the blizzard. He looks out the window of his car and sees that the keys are still in the ignition. He chooses to break a window in order to get them back. He then puts the car's floor mats under the tire to give it more grip, and he gets into his beat-up car to start the engine. The mats don't help much, and the tires spin in the snow without doing anything useful before giving out completely. Mero gets out of the broken-down car and walks the rest of the way. He says that the fact that he will probably die in the storm is a relief. Mero walks through the snow, amazed by the violent country, and notices that one of the cows has left its group to follow him. When he turns around to look at the animal, he realizes that it is the half-skinned steer whose red eye had been watching for him the whole time.
About the author. Annie Proulx, most often known by her pen name Annie Proulx, was raised in the United States with 4 of her sisters in a number of different locations. She went to high school in Maine and then went to Colby College. After 2 years, she dropped out to marry the first of her 3 husbands. In 1963, she went back to college and got her bachelor's degree in history from the University of Vermont. She then went to Canada and got her master's degree from Sir George Williams University, which is now called Concordia University. Proulx finally moved to Vermont and started working as a writer and journalist. He wrote pieces for Gray's Sporting Journal, a magazine for outdoor enthusiasts, as well as non-fiction books like cheese and hard cider recipes. She also started the Berkshire Behind the Times, a small-town newspaper in Vermont. Heart Songs and Other Stories, a collection of short stories, came out in 1988. Postcards, her first book, came out in 1992 and won the P.N. Faulkner Award for Fiction. The Shipping News, her next book, won both the Pulitzer Prize and the National Book Award in 1993. In 1994, she went to Wyoming, and in 1996, she wrote another book called Accordion Crimes. In 1999, she published another book of short stories called Close Range, Wyoming Stories. Brokeback Mountain, which won the O. Henry Award, is in Close Range.
Hope we summarized it fully and you liked it. Please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel so that we are motivated to create more videos.